Welcome to another episode of On the Couch with Jill. Today I'm in a different setting, a different couch, a beautiful pink couch, by the way. And I've spent many a times in this very office, on this very couch, shedding tears and laughter. But this is where my journey of fertility started. And I was privileged enough to experience it with this family at Wayland Fertility Clinic. And today I'm chatting to one of the co-founders, one of the ladies that has wiped my tears, Lizanne van Waart. Welcome to our couch.
It's really nice to talk to you. As I said, it's a long time ago. It's about 14 years that you had your miscarriages. And I could remember still all the tears and the sadness about that. But then also it was your long journey with PCOS that's make this journey so worthwhile to talk about it. PCOS, as you know, it's sometimes been misdiagnosed where you ended up firstly sometimes with a clinical psychologist and they will diagnose with depression. And when you ended up with a gynecologist where you start your family, we realize it's actually a hormone imbalance. And the difficult journey to know that your body actually mislead you and not doing the things that you want them to do. So I don't know if you want to comment a little bit on your experience of the PCOS.
PCOS took me on a journey of weight gain, of moods, of tears, of you don't know who you are actually at some point. And because society always dictated to us that we must have kids, and then it wasn't happening, and I landed up here, and I think this was the best place to be, not because of the experiences of the doctors, but the heart that this clinic has. For those who don't know, PCOS, see, I've been here for a very long time, is Polycystic Ovary Syndrome. And like doctor always explained to me, it's poly meaning many, cyst on your ovaries. And later on, I can actually draw you the picture because I've been here so long. But it's your body don't produce. So in my case, I didn't have a menstrual cycle. So the eggs wasn't big enough to come down, and then I would have a breakdown bleed. And I could never understand what that all about. But the emotional side of it all, when I started the journey, Lizanne, it was the heartache of all of that you need to experience, the injections, that roller coaster. What can you tell the people out there?
I think with PCOS, it's also there's a lot of eggs, but you're not ovulate that eggs during the month. So that's also a very misconcept about you think you do have eggs, but you don't always realize it's not good quality of eggs. And you do have a high risk for not falling pregnant and a high risk for miscarriages because when we do an IVF or our ICSI treatment with our patients, that's mostly what the treatment that we use for our PCO patients, is that the day when we do the pickup of the eggs, we try to get all mature eggs, metaphasic to eggs, and then we for the first time realize that the quality of the PCOS patients, the quality is not exactly the same as some of your other patients as well. So I think it's grieving. The psychological part is something that you desperately want. And now suddenly you realize there is a chance that I won't be able to have or hold my own baby. So fertility, the diagnosis of fertility is a grieving process for itself because you want this baby. It's not only that I can't have it. For me, it's something that I can't have. So you grieve from the beginning. It's and it's also a couple disease, where men and women grieve differently. Like guys is much more problem solvers and try to fix it. They don't know how to fix it. They are really for fear for the rejection part there. And I think for women, it's like, I'm ashamed. My body is not doing what I'm actually what it
Designed to
needs
do. Yeah. And that for me was one of the hardest things. And all my friends was falling pregnant around me. And everybody speaking about their pregnancy journey. And I was like, there clearly is something wrong with me. And that process, when you've gone through all of that, Lizanne, and you've gone through the IVF or whichever treatment you've gone through, that injection every month, that hormones that makes you really tatty. I think, I mean, one moment I'm laughing, the next moment I'm crying. And then to go, I get my menstrual cycle. Oh my word. Or, I fall pregnant. And then 3 months later, I lose the baby, or 2 weeks later, or that was
The
I,
emotional roller coaster. We
yes,
call it the emotional roller
yeah,
coaster disease, and I think it's also the lots of ups and downs. And I think specific, your first day of your cycle specific is where the hopes start.
yeah,
There's a chance that I can fall pregnant this specific month, and then the end of your cycle. The same day is the first day of your cycle is the end of my story.
story.
I lost this. It didn't work.
Work.
Again, we have to start all over. So that unrealistic hope, or if there's something like hope, can I hope still? That's one of the difficult ones to make that decision. Is there any hope more? It's difficult to handle for the patients. And then with the PCO patient specific, because you are a high risk for depression, it had also impact on your whole treatment plan as well. And medications, stimulation medications, as you also know, the injections had a high risk for symptoms of anxiety, depression. So if you've already been diagnosed with PCO, then also with your medication, it's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and it's difficult for patients to handle it. They don't know where to start, they don't know where to go. Not always people do understand the psychological aspects of the fertility patients.
Yeah, and as a couple, a married couple, when you come, or any relationship, I think that marriage has to be, I know that marriage needs to be rock solid to go through a fertility journey. That because of that highs and lows and um, the heartbreak. I remember when the first time Gary heard the heartbeat, I could see that smile on his face and that excitement, and I was excited. And then just to come back and doctor said there's no heartbeat, or this, you had a miscarriage, and that devastation, that look, and as a woman, I felt like I failed my marriage, I failed my husband, I failed myself. How do we navigate those kind of feelings?
I think it's important for couples, here specific these days, we do info sessions with our couples before they start a treatment to explain to them how guys perceive fertility treatment and how they see, building families. Mostly for them, it's actually legacy and masculinity, the sperm quality, that sort of things. For us, it's more the nurturing part, we want to be a mother. So we will do anything to keep that baby because the nurturing part is so important. So I think it's also that we have to understand that there's gender differences in grieving. And then also we internalize our feelings and thought processes differently. Even if we're the same gender, maybe I internalize my things differently to compare to what your grieving process is. There's different phases in grieving. First is that shocked, I can't believe this is happening with me. Then there's the very aggressive and anger part. Yeah. You would remember that.
I remember that.
You're cross with the doctors, cross with everybody, cross
I
with
think
my
I
husband.
was more cross with God than was always with the
Yeah,
doctors
I
than
think that's
anything
always
else.
like that.
Yeah.
Not understand how can we been fall pregnant and then it's been taken away. And then the bargaining part is also one thing with a lot of patients dealing with God. You want, and that's also states of grieving. And then you come to a point where you have to understand this is maybe my process, and I have to get ways around how to work it. So I always say to patients, it's only a day-by-day plan. We try to narrow down the fertility treatment I always explain it like running a marathon. Okay. It's only the first 3 kilometers. So we're going to do firstly a day-by-day plan just to get the first 3 kilometers been done. It's more concentrate on egg, sperm, and embryo quality, and not concentrate on the outcome, the baby.
The baby, yeah.
And that's so difficult. So we try to help them to put a day-by-day plan to cope with. The control part, that you forget about. You feel like you're not in control of your whole life.
And I'm a bit of a control freak. Like I don't overindulge in alcohol because I feel like I need to be in control of a situation. And that was a lesson of you can't control anything that's happening. You can't control your emotions. You can't control how you feel. You can't control the fact that if you're going to have a baby or not. And that for me was something I had to deal with. It's very difficult. And the guilt feelings. And everywhere you look is pregnant people, women walking prams, mothers. And the one thing that I loved, really, really loved about this practice was the 2 entrances. I mean, I feel here at Waart, you really thought of everything. that I'm coming for a fertility treatment and I sit at the one end, I don't need to look at the pregnant mommies. Um, and that for me was something that was, you don't stress, oh, I need to go to the gynae and it's probably going to be pregnant women. And it worked for that one, but it's not working for me. That you're sitting there and you're staring and you actually, you're not, you're jealous.
I think jealous is one of the most difficult one because you're not a jealous person, but
Yeah.
then suddenly you've been confronted with an emotional reaction that's not use of your makeup, your psychological makeup, where you want people to fall pregnant, you want to be very, for them and feel for them, but then on the other hand is why not me?
Why not me?
The why not is a
Yes.
big one. The question that we
Absolutely.
ask over and over.
Why me? What did I do so wrong? And with two of my pregnancies, one, my sister-in-law was pregnant with a second child, and I recall she had swine flu or something, and then it was a week after I had a miscarriage, and she gave birth, and we went to the hospital, and I forced myself out of the car, and I went in, and looking at her with the baby and the other daughter standing there, my mother-in-law said something, because people are not aware of your feelings and your emotions. And I do know it wasn't any malice intent from her side, but she said, oh, she's just so grateful that the baby was born, and that everything is okay and everything's fine. And I'm standing there and I'm thinking, I just lost my child. And yeah, she's got the baby. And yes, I'm happy that she's got another baby. But yeah, I'm trying everything just to keep myself together here, to put a smile on my face and to say, everything's okay. And that was, that people refer to you and say things like, "Ah, don't worry, man, it was only a miscarriage. It was, my child existed for me."
But even as I said, when you decided to fall pregnant, the fertility treatment itself is also like a baby. It's not only something a treatment or is
Yes.
when it's much more a child that you desperately want and you can't have. So you're grieving about the fact that I can't have it. I think it's also ashamed and the isolation of the fertility patients. That's also
They don't know how to deal with you.
Yeah, so you feel like people is looking at different faces to you. And then also the pulling and pushing factors in the relationship. Sometimes I think sexual intimacy is one thing that's a difficult one because it's thought to be a work.
Yeah.
You try to fall pregnant. And what is sexual intimacy? You can't just build a relationship on it, but it's such an important part to fulfill your relationship. And it's different meaning for guys. For you, is it the closeness with your partner? And now suddenly it's also a loss because now you work to fall pregnant. So it's not the closeness, the essential, the psychological essential that it's been there. It's not there.
Yeah, because you get told you need to do it. And I would get a call and say, doctor, so it looks like you're starting to ovulate. You need to have sex tonight. And then tomorrow when I get here and we do the whole process, it's, oh, did you have sex? Oh, look, and it's got so much. And it's like, wow, where did this? And the fact that we need a little bit of a nation to have a baby, and that is why I feel it's so important for anybody that's going through this is to choose your doctors well, because it's such an important part of this whole process.
Yeah. And I think also to get health psychology support, you know. When I sit with the fertility patients, sometimes you ask them what is their happy spaces. They forget about it completely. They can't mention it. There's smaller things in life that's also important. It's not only to fall pregnant. I also think in your case specific, as you also realize, it's not that you've been married to Gary just because to have babies. There's much more in a relationship just to fall pregnant. And I think there's also much more to a woman. You're not only there to have
bear kids.
There's much more. You have to love yourself. It started yourself. What is your other
Your
aims?
worth.
Yes.
Your worth. That is so, and you forget about that because it's just focused. Like we married 19 years, but I always tell people we actually only married 14 years because for the first 5 years of my marriage, I was so obsessed with having this baby that I didn't enjoy my marriage. It was, and in that time we started a business. So it was a lot of news and a lot of stress that was happening at the same time. I want to go back to where you said you feel isolated. So with my last one, which was 14 years ago, My sister was pregnant at the same time. And I lost, obviously, my child. And Catherine is 14 years old this year. And when I lost my child, we would walk in the store, my mom and I. And she would like peep at the baby clothes. And I'm like, you can go look at it. I don't have a disease. I just can't have a baby. You know, my cousin was also struggling. They were married for 7 years at that time, also, and she couldn't have a baby. And then, or she was trying, and they couldn't happen. And then they had this conversation. We were super close. And then she phoned. Actually, my grandfather phoned me and said, "Your cousin want to tell you something." And she took the phone and she started crying. I said, "Candace, why are you crying?" She says, "I don't know how to tell you this." And I said, "What? Are you pregnant?" She said, "Yes." And I'm so, so sorry. I said, "No, you don't have to say sorry, you know?" And then automatically people just kind of count you out of things, out of their lives, because in their mind, they're doing good. But for me, I'm feeling like I don't have TB or something that can spread. I just can't have a baby. Does it make me less of a person?
Yeah. And I think that's a difficult one because people let feel you like you're less of a person. And I always say to the patients as well, you can put up your boundaries, go out there and say, I struggled to fall pregnant. You don't have to give all the information
Yeah.
for people and explain what's going on, but it's good to tell people, yeah, I struggled to fall pregnant. I do have help, that people is going to help me. But then also I can put up my own boundaries and I can talk about it when I'm ready to talk about it. But please don't exclude me from, baby showers and that
You
sort of
don't get
things.
invited to those
If you
things.
can give a patient, help other people out there, give control back to them, that they can control it and make the decision themselves. Do they want to go or not? But don't take it away from them or hide it from them.
Yeah.
It's really hard because the psychological part of fertility itself is so difficult to manage. And if you also have to handle the social impact, that's also very difficult.
And it feels like everybody whispers behind your back. It literally feels that way. Like, that's the girl that can't have a baby. Don't ask her. Don't speak about it. And also, I feel that a lot of the world, the people, don't actually understand that, and they ask inappropriate questions at times. I was at a conference, and I was standing outside, and this lady said, "Oh, you're married?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "How long?" "5 years." "You have kids?" And I thought, here it comes. I said, "No, I don't have kids." She says, "Oh, don't you think it's a bit selfish?" And I just lost it because that was not long after the last miscarriage. And I said, "Listen here, if somebody asks you, you're married for 5 years and they don't have kids, don't you think there's maybe something wrong? Why should you even ask? Why you ask the most inappropriate questions?" And people like saying, "Oh, but like, when are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids?" Just there's so many women. I saw something. I think they said that 1 out of 10 women are struggling with PCOS, and that's more of us out there.
There's one big question about the PCOS patients. As I said in our practice, that we do have Dr. Candice Morrison that did the master studies on it, and maybe it's related on all the hormones in foods and things, but we see that more younger girls come through the practice with the diagnosis of PCOS patients, and that's something that worries us. Where is this hormone imbalance coming from? And is it something they did wrong, or is it inherited? Is it from the parents, or that sort of thing? So there's still a lot of questions about it, but it's a reality that we deal with at the moment. And I also think it's good to talk about the fact that, what did you do in the end when you realized maybe this is the end of my journey? That's also a very difficult psychological
thing.
to make decision. If you had 3 or 4 miscarriages, now you have to make a decision.
When
I have
do you
to live
stop?
my life and I have to stop and maybe.
I think for me, Lizanne, it was that last loss for me it hit me hard. It hit me the hardest out of all of it. And I came for checkups, and doctor said to me, don't use things like this as, to put your guard up, to, really sit in your feelings. And I came in here after that, and I said to you, I don't know what to do. And I think I said it exactly like that. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with this feeling of loss, of hurt, of grieving, but I can't go through it again. I couldn't go through another cycle and have another loss, because I would have lost my mind. if I had another loss at that point in time. And your words to me was, feel what you need to feel and don't apologize for what you're feeling. And that stuck with me throughout the years. And I take it in so many parts of my life, not only with that. I use it in other fields in my life as well. So I need to sit in my feelings and actually and grieve. And you say to me, there's going to be this process of grief that you're going to go through. And then at the end of that process, if you still want to do it, then you come back.
And I think it's also your feelings is about, I always say your feelings belongs to you. You have to own it. So you can't say to somebody, you're not allowed to feel like that. That's so important. And that's what the outside world sometimes say, or tell
Why
you.
Why are you carrying on like that?
So I think it's also, it belongs to you. You can feel your feelings, the way that you think about things as well, how you think about things. But it's in the end, how you're giving meaning to that feelings. And I think that's where the closer session is coming, when you realize, but I have to give different meaning to my feelings. And if I cannot do this anymore, I have to find different ways to go ahead with my life, because I have to live my life. I can't stop living because I don't have babies. I have to live my life as well. And I think that closer session is so important to realize that I can do something else. And my meaning of my own life can be something else. It's not only to be a mother. That's not the whole fulfilling of my own life.
And for me, it was also where my sister then I was devastated. When she told me she was pregnant, I almost died. I cried for a solid night. And the next morning, a friend of mine is a hairdresser, and she said, come, I'm going to do your hair, I'm going to do whatever. And I sat there and I came home, and I remember Gary saying to me, I don't want you to go into a depression. So I said, I'm not depressed. I just need to deal with my feelings first. And then the day when Claire went into labor, I phoned her and I wished her. And I said to her, I don't think I'm going to come tonight. There's too many people. And she said to me, no, it's okay. Come tomorrow. And then when I left work, I got into a shower, I got dressed, and he asked me, where you going? I said, if I don't go to hospital today and I don't hold that child today, I would probably never hold her. And at that point, I think the penny dropped for me when I took Kate in my arms and I burst into tears, and I felt a mother's love for this little child. I realized that I don't need to have my own child. Here is someone I can love, and it's my sister's child, so I could love her. And one thing I must say, my sister never stopped me from caring for Catherine. Yeah. And I could reprimand her, I could, and then a year and 6 months later, she was pregnant, her son was born. So then I could step into that role with Kate and be that. And I always say that Kate is my saving grace. And when she introduced herself, she says, and she's with me, she says, I'm on my auntie's saving grace. They could have just as well given my name Grace, But I found that in her. And then I also realized that my marriage is going to suffer if I carry on more. I'm not paying the attention to my husband that I should be doing. I'm not doing stuff with him because I'm so obsessed with having this baby.
I think that's the closer session, as I said, is very important, where you have to mind map a little bit, what's the different things in life. That's a marriage, there's my family, there's my work. And if you not be very careful, I always explain it very simplistic. I said, fertility could be like after you bake a cake, it's like the icing. And when you do the slices of the cake, and that's the part of your life, that slices, you will see the icing is into each one of the slice, and you realize, it's take over my life. It's everywhere. So you have to mind map a little bit and get your little systems or all the parts of your life in different sections. What is important for me? Maybe my work is more important at this stage, or I can make something successful there. There's also the different meanings of success. To be a mother is not going to make you more a successful woman. So I think it's also just to narrow down or see things narratively in a different way. What's the meaning of life for you specific?
And I always say something that what has happened to me doesn't define who I am. I'm more than having a baby or having, I'm not saying, and then I've met people that decided not to have kids. And I asked them, like, why? why? You married for so long. Why? Was there a problem, if I must? They said, no, we just decided that we don't want children. And I thought, well, I'm not so bad off after all. And it's not that I needed the validation of others, but also through the whole process. And I think this is what a lot of patients will go through. I needed to know that I did everything in my power to have this baby, and when all else failed, I could say, I did it all and I'm grateful for the experience, but it wasn't meant for me. But it's a hard thing to accept.
It's a hard one, and I think, but yeah, we also help you, in here specific, as you said, to come to a point where you realize there could be also a psychological domino effect if you keep on going and keep on going, and there is a point where you have to realize this must be the end of my reproductive phase of life, and I have to do something else or carry on with something else as well.
So if there's now, as we're going to conclude this, because I can't take many more of your time, what would you say to couples that now just found out that they're going to struggle to have a kid? What do you think they need to, what is the first point they need to reference or do?
I think it's always, there's still unrealistic expectations, and sometimes we see patients that's coming in and they think it's easily, they just come in here. We're almost like, oh God, we're going to fix it. The first treatment plan is going to be the one answer, and we're going to be pregnant. You come in here not pregnant and you're leaving here pregnant. And life doesn't work like that. Nothing in life works like that. There's quite unpredictable reasons. I always said fertility is not reading books. There's always parts that we can control. It's a science. You may be going to talk to Dr. van Waart about the science part, but still we do find 75% we can get answer. There's always like 15% or 20% that we don't know and we don't understand. That's where maybe God is playing much a bigger role in our lives. So what we actually started is with basic investigations. We're looking also at the psychological status of the patients, the psychological status of the couple. I think that's important to highlight it. And then we take it from there and guide them through the processes. And the end, when there's a specific treatment plan out for them, we take them literally by the hand and take them step by step. So here from these days, they see mostly me, and then they also see the embryologist to explain them more the science part, and then the IVF coordinator. And then there's always psychological support in the practice when they run into trouble. And it's also to open up a safe space for women and guys. The guys need it even more because now these days 50% of our cases is male fertility, it's not only women. So that's a fast growing one. So I think it's also to open up a safe space for them where they can just say, like,
what's on their mind?
I'm really feeling horrible, and and I can't do this anymore. Guys also struggle. So what, as I said, when we start talking in the beginning, the guys that said to me, I can't do this morning, noon and night.
It's too much.
It's too much for me. So I think also to highlight the differences where women think, we do get obsessed of falling pregnant, but then we think it's easy for guys, but it's not so easy for guys. So it's like, guide them through the process, support them all the way, but also there's hope. And I always say to patients, you still have options, then you do have hope. When there's no options,
then you lose hope.
Then you lose hope. So and I think that's where the closure session needed to come. And we also do the closure session with them now in these days. I can't remember in your days, but we sit down and we sit and say, maybe this is the end of your reproductive phase of life. Now what now? I'm going to carry on with my life. And I think that's important. And I still keep in contact with the patients. It's nice to keep in contact with them. Yes. And they come back and ask advice.
It's like many asked me, like, why don't you're not trying to have a baby, why don't you go to a normal gynae? I said, my doctor is a normal gynae. He can do everything, And it's just that it is more of a comfortable space. It's like a second home because
that was for us. Maybe highlight. I've also been a fertility patient myself, so it was important to open that space for people to come back and feel safe. It's a safe space.
Yeah. And that is the one thing that drew me. Besides when I walked into the practice, and that wasn't this one initially, it was the other one, and you got this the smell of the freshly brewed coffee and the friendly receptionist, and then going in, and doctor actually said to me that I've been through this. You know, my wife and I had to go see my colleagues. So I know what you're going through. And that, I think, to me was very important, because when I sit here and I speak to you, you're not just speaking from a point of what you've studied in the books. You're speaking of a point from knowing what we're going through. And that to me made me feel that this could be my fertility home. And for you guys that's listening, this is, if you've followed me on social media, you'll know that I like everything on vein and fertility, and not because um, it's just because that this was my help. It was my crutch. Yeah, I could pick up the phone. I remember the smaller practice where I was. What was the lady's name that was here? The endometriologist, and she would look and she said, "Jill, kom kyk gou hierso, kom kyk gou hierso. Kyk, daar swem hulle. We've got so much." The inclusivity of making, and
More
then
personal.
yeah,
I think
yes,
that was the idea. It's your gametes, your sperm, your egg,
yeah,
your uterus. So it's your baby, it's
Yeah.
your life, it's your body. I think it's also try to help patients to give them control back and be very much part of the fertility plan or the treatment plan. That they're not feeling, everybody's taking my life over.
yeah,
So I think that was so important. But I
Yeah.
always say there's hope.
There's hope.
And even it's so great to see you that don't have that baby, but you live a extremely full life, and I'm so proud of that.
Thank you, Lizanne. But once again, it comes down to the support that I had through that time, and I'm not here just blowing smoke. I speak to everybody and saying I could not have done this without Doctor You, and there's only one nurse here that I still remember, um, and and the whole support that I had in this. It was a unpleasant journey, but made pleasant in many ways. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for. And I don't want to cry because I still get emotional. Before I end off with this, actually, there's another question I would like to ask. If I had my last miscarriage 14 years ago, the grief doesn't go away, right? But how do I still? I still feel that sadness. I still get that depression, if I can put it in inverted commas, when it.
I think fertility is part of your life. It never will go away. It's what's happening to you. It was also something that creates you, and the way that you're seeing things. You will see things and experience things differently compared to other people because you've been through trauma, and trauma is one of the things that will form your personality as well. So there would be moments, that you will go back to that grieving process, and it's normal.
It's
so normal. And if you don't feel anymore, that's abnormal.
Yeah.
So to feel things, it's real, and that's part of your journey. It's part of your marriage. It's part of your family building. That's part of your family, your family, because there was babies. It was not only miscarriages. There was babies, but they not there anymore. Yeah. So it's losses. It's real. So just to end off maybe with our own story. I've been 5 times pregnant. Wow. And 3 was miscarriages. So I've been married to a Dutch person. So my sons will sit around the table, and they say, Dutch, we could be 5 Dutch boys. So you won't be able to make it. So I'm just saying it, keep it alive. It's part of your life.
So it's okay to still speak about
it. Yeah. It must be like that. I think it's also the fact there was a baby that God gave you, so that was reality. It was there. It's not.
It was our reality.
It was your reality.
And it was taken away. So you still this very Catherine that I spoke about. She always say, she was about 6 years old. She said, "My mommy told me that I've got cousins," and she asked me, "Now what is their names?" I said, "Some of them I didn't know that if it was a boy or a girl." And I couldn't give them names. She said, "But I think I'm going to give them names, Auntie Jill, but I need to write it down because it's a lot and I need to pray for them." And things like that I felt that warmth inside of me that my sister actually remembers my children, even though they're not here, and speaks to her children about my children. And that was, it's almost like I made it in a certain way, that even though I don't have the kids, but I've got someone that loves me and still speaks about my journey. Yeah. So, but it's a tough one, guys. If I don't even know how to say how tough it is. It is probably one of the most difficult things I did in my life. And I was more at this practice than I was at home in that time.
I think you own a few rooms here.
I own a few rooms here. You
So-
come here more often because doctor need to check this and need to check that, and you need to. But once again, as I'm going to end off, thank you, Lizanne. Thank you for wiping my tears. Thank you for standing by me. Thank you for believing in me. There's a lot of things. The last miscarriage, actually, it was at the house practice, and you came to look for doctor. And you came and we were busy walking out, and you looked at me and you said, "Ah, near Jill." And I saw the tears run, and I immediately knew that I've got a support structure, even though that was the last one I did, but it meant a lot for me, that I didn't just feel like a number here. You know me by name, you know who I am, and that I just want to say thank you. Thank you
But
very
I
much.
also think with this, you also show people that there's much more in life, just not having babies. It's not the most important part. It is important part, but it's also that you also show people you can have a full life, and I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. It is to say that there's life after death,
fertility, yeah,
after fertility,
treatment, yeah.
and I can't express it enough to whoever's watching this, that your journey needs to start with a good support structure, a good doctor that knows what they're doing firstly, and a practice where you feel at home. So this was my home. And like I said to Lizanne, thank you very much for taking even the time out now. And it's 14 years later that I had my last miscarriage, but the family, my Wynand family, my Wynand fertility family will always be a part of my heart. And you said that, you're close to retirement age and stuff. And I said to doctor, where do I go now from here if you retire? But once again, thank you for dedicating not only your life to me as a fertility patient, but to everybody that you helped. And I am sure there were so many babies born out of this clinic, and so many tears that you've wiped. And I don't know, I have to say this, but I feel God is going to bless you in abundance in your life going forward with your flowers and stuff you want to do. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's a pleasure. It's great.
Yeah. So that was another episode of On the Couch with Jill, and I was so privileged and really excited to do this episode because, like I said to you, if you listened in this episode, that this is my fertility home, and I can't express how important this offices and the people in this place became a part of my life, became almost a part of my family ultimately. But yeah, watch more, and you gotta listen to this whole episode because it's really amazing. And thank you for joining me on the couch, and I'll see you at the next episode.